Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to go ahead and introduce the Dean of Comedy.
Here I am.
It's Greg Dean, everybody. Let's hear it for Greg Dean.
Yay.
Just so you know, Greg is making this open mic possible. And so it's his business. It's over here, Greg Dean Comedy Workshop. He's a guy, he's been in business for like years. I think I was like 7 when I met him. So that's how long he's been around. And
Gayla, you realize that just makes me a pedophile.
You know what? I'm the host. I could remove you from this meeting. Holy shit, I realize that now. Okay, here's one from Rosa. Oh, yeah. Are you ready? Rosa asks, so when stepping up to a mic, is it vital to have an introduction and a closing? Or what would you recommend direct to the MC or everyone, even though you are bombing? Ouch. What do you expect us to, what do you recommend us to do with an intro and a closing?
What was the question?
Oh, Rosa, what's your question?
Well, the introduction. So when you're stepping up on a mic, like, is it vital to have an introduction and a closing? I think it's like 3 questions.
First,
Okay.
the introduction. Should you have an introduction?
Yeah.
Well, the big answer is yes. Okay. Now, if you're at an open mic, the chances are that they won't use them. Okay. They're just introducing one person after another and not paying much attention to anything and so on and so forth. If you're doing a legitimate show of some kind, then the answer is yes, especially if you're going to go to a club and actually do a show. Somebody's going to come and say, how do you want to be introduced? So the answer is have an introduction. Okay, that's probably, it's one of the most neglected thing, I think, especially for beginner comedians. Personally, I think of it as the first line of your show. Treat it like the first line of your show. You don't say it. The MC says it. Yet it's the first time you're introduced. You're talked about. Okay, you're mentioned. I started writing my own intros when I was introduced as the man who invented the blowjob. Yeah, and my whole show was basically trying to deal with that. And so I went, wait, that's not what I wanted to do here. So I started going and studying introductions. So there's several things you can put in introduction to make things better for you. First of all, think about, what I call a premise, which is a negative opinion about a subject. So you can give that to the MC. So if somebody goes, here's somebody who's having trouble in their marriage, and they introduce you, you can walk right in and just start talking about it. It's just so easy. That's also akin to bringing up a subject matter. Your character, you can, like one lady, we introduced her as, she was very aggressive woman, very loud and everything. We wrote the introduction for her, which was that she was definitely a woman, but not a lady. So sometimes it helps answer a question. I had a lady who was a dwarf and she was Japanese, a Japanese American. So the introduction was, I had her just stand there for a moment, let the audience get used to the fact she was a little person, right? I mean, it takes them a while. They kind of got to deal with it. And then she would say, oh, you're probably wondering what to refer to me as. I prefer Japanese American. The answer to this is yes, have an introduction, put it on a 3x5 card, make it nice and big to read. And if you have a weird name that's tough, spell it phonetically.
Yeah, I also know that he also says your first joke in your show, your introduction could be the setup to that, and you just keep the laughs flowing. Our next question comes from Andreas. Andreas got a good one. If I never moved to a stand-up comedy mecca, okay, such as New York or LA, what would be my most promising path to greater exposure and connections as a stand-up comedian?
What would be the better exposure? Don't tempt me. So there's a lot of comedians that don't want to necessarily be road comedians or whatever. And what you have to do is find the things to do in your local area.
いや、なんかそれだ。
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot to do. There's a lot you can do in your local area. The first thing, of course, is to I always say 30 minutes worth of material, but that's really getting jobs in clubs. If you
Yeah.
want to get a job at a club, you have to have 30 minutes worth of material. And then get it on a video so you can show it. Whereas in your local area, first of all, I would say keep it squeaky clean. Whatever you're doing, keep it squeaky, because then there's a lot of places you can go and perform. There's the Moose Lodge and the Kiwanis, and these people have meetings all the time.
Okay.
There's places you can go that just have meetings and they want it. We used to do an open mic at an AA meeting. You got an audience there, and unfortunately, they're all sober.
There you go.
But but you can go in and you can do these little shows in your local area and get known, so everybody then hires you to come in and do the shows or parties and stuff like that. So you can make it's kind of more of a side hustle.
Yeah, any of those charities or fundraisers,
Right.
any place they would hire a birthday party clown, sign up. Because those are the places they would want some entertainers, and then you get up. That's good. That's such good advice, Greg. Thank you. And the town hall. And so that way you don't have to travel and deal with the meccas, and then eventually you'll outgrow that town. All right, our next question comes from Joria. She just got onto Instagram. Greg, what the hell did she do with it?
There's different parts of Instagram, so that there's the story and the other things, but essentially, you have to kind of decide. Best thing is kind of a theme for comedians. I think it's really, since you're back and you're starting to get busy, let us follow you around. Keep showing us all the places you are. Show us when you're in class. Oh, I'm in class today, and take a little piece of video, with your cell phone to get a little piece of video from that. When you go out to a show, when you're here on this, have a little video with your camera of you being on this open mic. Everything you do, you just keep posting little bits and pieces of it, pictures as well as short videos of it. That way, people will start to have fun following you around. I've had also students that are like almost like a diary. Follow me as I become a comedian. And so that's one of the things you can do, because what you're doing is getting exposure, letting other comedians know who you are, and anybody else who's following you, they're getting to know you and your sense of humor. And then that, now you can parlay that into networking and getting to know and following other comedians, and they know you're following them, and also showing up to their gigs, taking pictures and putting it up on your Instagram. Oh, I went to this particular show or that show, and I supported this person. All those things that our comedians are doing, and people like to follow somebody and follow their story.
Yes, good for you, Joria. It's a good way to get a stalker. It's really good. It could add to your comedy, and hopefully it won't turn into anything regard. You need that thing from the court that keeps them back. What is it called when
Restraining order.
Yeah, that. Yeah, hopefully it won't turn into that. But yeah, but as a single woman, and if you live alone, it's great. But that's what people do. We wanted your story so we can become a fan of your process and watch your career. Carlos had a really good question. I think we're great. If we were to post some material online, like you're telling Joria to do there, how often should we do so? Carlos Figueroa.
Well, that's a really good thing. And I think it's really good and healthy for comedians to constantly post something online. So whatever it is, be consistent. In other words, let's say every Monday, Wednesday, or Friday or something like that, post a picture of something you're doing or a short clip of what you're doing. The important thing is that the people on YouTube or IG, which is where most comedians are at, is on Instagram more so than even Facebook or anything else that becomes more of a place to everybody. It just be consistent. So people who like to follow you and stuff will know, like I put up a quote every Monday at like 8:30 in the morning, every Monday. That's the time. Boom. I've been doing it for, a couple of years now, every morning.
Yeah.
Every Monday morning, boom, boom, boom. Gets reposted too. But that's really the point, is to get into a ritual at a particular time so you become predictable and people then can follow you and know how to follow you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Bob Kirk's question is next. Bob Kirk says, what is the best way to memorize your set?
It's probably one of the most important questions that you could ask as far as how it really affects you as a comedian. So let me try to give you the short version of this. If you're memorizing the words of your jokes by standing there and repeating the words over and over and over and over again, going, I'm preparing myself, okay? So we have to go into a little bit of a thing about how the mind and the brain works. If you do that, what I call repeating the words over and over and over again, it gets coded into an area of the brain called the Broca area of the brain, which is responsible for speech, responsible for this speech and internal self-talk speech. So the problem becomes, in order to retrieve just the words that you've gone over and over and over, okay? Not going to go deep into NLP and eye movements, but your eyes need to go down and to the left and talk those words. In other words, it's speech, okay? So you got to speak those words to yourself so that you then can speak them to the audience. And then you have to go back into internal self-talk, talk the next joke to yourself, and then say it to the audience. Now, this self-talk is very much like a soundproof room. When you go inside of it, you can't have a relationship with the audience. You can't do anything except completely concentrate and talk to yourself. So you won't know anything else that's going on. That's one of the problems, is people will do a joke. They'll go in to talk to themselves to get the next joke. The audience is laughing. They can't hear it. They come back out and they think they've bombed. And then they say the next joke, and then they immediately disappear, go into the... So in my particular way of looking at this, and this is one of the things that I really put an emphasis on in my level 1 technique classes, and we practice in the level 2 classes, that's not the way I want you to rehearse. Because what you're remembering, what you're trying to do is remember what you're supposed to say next. The audience didn't come there the audience, it's not interesting or funny to watch somebody remember correctly. They didn't come there. They're not going, he said a win instead of a because. Oh my God. No, they don't care. They want to hang out with somebody that's fun, not somebody who's trying to remember what they're supposed to say next. Okay, I know those are the jokes. So, well, let me tell you. Now, the answer. The answer is a little bit more complex, but the simple answer is take your joke, and I have a certain way I teach it, which is my rehearsal process, but the short answer to this is get up and act out the scene of the joke. See, I don't have to memorize, if there's you have a joke, for instance, my grandfather died a peaceful death. He died in his sleep. Of course, on the passengers on the bus he was driving were wide awake. Okay. Now, I'm saying I can memorize those words of that over and over and over again, or I can get up and act out him dying peacefully in his sleep at home, which is what the setup is misdirecting to. He died peacefully in sleep. Want the audience to think at home in his bed, maybe went to sleep and never woke up. Oh, that was peacefully in his sleep. Now, it's the setup in my head. Actually, act out that. Okay. I mean, physically go out and act that out.
But I love what you just said. You know, we remember things that actually happened to us, not clever things that could say that's funny. So Bob, you would have to make your rehearsal actually happen to you, so you can look at the picture and then just talk about what happened in the joke format, or keeping the integrity of the joke. So that is a practice. You get good at what you practice. You practice trying to memorize, that's what you do. But if you practice trying to make things happen to you and then perform them because they happen to you, that's another practice.
I don't have to die in a bus.
No,
Yes, you do have to die in a bus.
Yeah, not dying on the
I didn't
bus.
get to finish talking about that, but okay, but that's what you would have to do is
Sorry.
fall asleep driving a bus and die peacefully in your sleep, so that you would actually have a picture in your head, an experience in your head. So yes, you would have to do that.
And then Greg would say, okay, now stand up and look at you dead on the floor. Now evaluate it. And now go back and make sure it's your joke. We have a really good question from David coming in. Is crowd work ruining stand-up, or is it just a natural evolution of the art?
Yes.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
Oh, we want a little bit more than that. Okay.
Yeah, we did.
No, I do not think that crowd work is ruining stand-up comedy. You're right. It's a natural evolution. See, the situation is that we've got Zoom now. We've got the internet. We've got so many ways that you can get into the media or get yourself out there in the public and do what comedians call burn your material. You work hard on the show, and all I got to do, I got 20 minutes. It took me a couple of years to put together, and you put it on on YouTube or Netflix or whatever it is that you put it on. That's it. Everybody's now, a lot of people have already seen it. Louis C.K. said an interesting thing about people will come and see you and they'll love you and they'll come to you a second time. But then if you do that same show, they won't come a third time. And they won't come the next time because so that's when he decided, I'm going to write a brand new show every year. I'm going to write another hour headlining set every year. And that's when his career took off, was people could come back every year and see him have a brand new show. So there's the problem, is few people are as good as Louis C.K. at being able to write an hour every year. Okay. So now what is happening is people are going, I've done my material now. So the next thing is, wow, I need to fill the time. So I'm going to do crowd work. So that's what they end up doing. They're filling in their show with crowd work. And it seems it's a really nice trend. Matt Rife's doing a really great job, and Andrew Schultz and a few other people that's primarily what they do. Have turned that into some people come to shows now just to see that. So, and that's good because it gives comedians a way to get up in front of people without having, quote unquote, a complete show. You still need to have that show if you want to get work. You always have, it's really in how many minutes you can make people laugh. Crowd work, I think, is one of the four top most important skills for you to learn. We have a workshop on that. I do a weekly workshop on that. And we also have not yet, but I do work with a lot of students on that in my level 1 class, is the advanced class. We call it a specialty. People can come in and work on that live in that class as well and learn those skills. And it's lots and lots of skills, a lot of techniques behind it, because the number one thing you want to do is solve not getting stuck. You're always going to be fine if you know where you're going to go next. And once you kind of solve that, it's a lot less scary.
Yes. Rosa has another question. She's a fast talker. How does she slow down?
You don't. Robin Williams didn't have to slow down. You need to learn to take pauses. It's not the speed of your talk. That's the natural way you talk. If you talk fast, got to make sure that the audience can understand what you say. Joke earlier, your joke was about doing something ending up with the turmeric ending up in a coma. we didn't really hear that word. For some reason, it kind of disappeared. That's why that joke didn't work. We didn't really hear it. It kind of blurred. So talking fast is not a problem. That's the way you talk. There's a lot of comedians that talk really fast, and it's okay. But they know when they know where their jokes are, and when they hit that punchline, they know, oh, I take a pause. If there's one big thing that when me watching the open mic tonight was to give everybody, not everybody, but most of the people here advice, is that know where know where your reveal is, know where the end of your joke is, and practice taking a pause.
Yeah.
I know it's a horrifying pause. 2, 3, 4, 5. Laugh.
Oh,
That is the longest thing in the world if they don't laugh, because then it's really tough because it thumps. Yet, especially through media like Zoom,
yeah.
got to remember it took a while for your joke to go through whatever it is to get to people's ears, and when it's in their ears, they get the joke, and then they laugh into the computer, and then it's got to go through all those things again until it gets here to the screen. So on Zoom, you've got to pause even longer if you want to hear those laughs. There were a bunch of times that people were in the middle of their next setup tonight, and we were now starting to laugh. And so it's really practice. And one of the hardest things for me to teach people is the most important thing about stand-up comedy is your relationship with the audience. If that's my belief. So that means you're connected to the audience. So when you hit the joke, you hit the punchline, you know where to pause and just give the audience time. And you'd be surprised. I did an experiment with a guy to say, pause as long as you can, see what happened. It extended his show by 5 minutes at the end of his show. The audience just laughed longer because he allowed them to. You'd be surprised that when the audience gets, this person's going to let us laugh as long as we want. They'll laugh much longer than you think that they will. So again, it's not about speed. It's about knowing when to pause to let the audience laugh.
That is awesome. I watch that too. Sometimes though we get preoccupied with only having 3 minutes and we want to speed through it and stuff. And
well, then now we're talking about goal setting.
yeah.
See, if your goal is I got to get all my material in before the light, you'll get that goal. You won't have a very good time, and probably the audience won't either. It's the wrong goal. The goal is to have a relationship with the people that are in front of you, to notice us. We want to be noticed as an audience. We're laughing. By laughing, we're giving you a compliment. We're giving you, we're saying, oh, we like you. We're having fun with you. And now if you just completely ignore us, we'll stop complimenting you. And that's what happens with people's shows all the time, is that they're not noticing the audience and kind of let it come in and have an impact on you. That's what I mean by a relationship with the audience. Your attention's on the audience, not on, oh, I got to remember what I'm supposed to say next. It's on the audience. And so their laughter should have an impact on you. Or lack of laughter should have an impact on you, and then you adjust. If they're laughing, you keep it going and get a rhythm with them. If they're not laughing, you need to notice, deal with that, call it, whatever it is, and then rebuild that trust with that audience.
Oh, that's fantastic. So Andreas, by the way, has a question coming in, and he's in Mexico City, by the way. So
I'm sorry.
okay.
I'm doing all right. Don't worry.
Okay, good.
Here's his question. So how do I know if a given stand-up open mic is worth showing up to more than once?
Well, if you go once and it's not worth going to, okay, first of all, anthropologically, culture comes from the top down. Okay, just understand it. You go to an open mic and the person is, very indulgent. It's all about them. It's all about what they want. They don't care about the other comedians. They'll trash everybody because they're trying to get laughs, and I don't go back if you don't want to. Now, for me, open mics in general are a two-step process. First of all, go in, evaluate.
Yeah.
Okay, if it's a person that just doesn't care, now, So if you can get something from a bad open mic, okay, because they're offering a microphone, lights in your eyes, a stage, people that are there. So what you don't want to do at that point is do your material because you're trying to get a read on it. You're not going to get a read on material when nobody's listening. And usually what happens, people go, well, if I was good enough, I could make them listen. You're right. That's absolutely right. Gayla could make them listen. I could make them listen. That's right. We've got this experience. Okay. But you don't. You're at an open mic. You're just trying to figure out a whole bunch of things. So if it's a bad open mic and nobody's listening, don't do your material. What do? Rant.
Yeah.
Pick something some material you've been thinking about, or start with a premise, an idea of some kind, or just take an event that happened that day. You got in a car wreck. Okay. Rant it out. Just get up and just rant it out and record it because you might get some good jokes from it. Now, you get up, and the point of ranting is to be as honest as you possibly can about everything you're talking about. Now you get to practice something. It doesn't matter if they're laughing or they're not laughing. You're standing up there being absolutely honest about everything that you're saying, brutally honest about it. If there's something that's going to cause these comedians to listen, it's somebody who's up there being really honest, because that's what they're all trying to do. They're trying to, with their comedy and their voice, learn to tell their truth. Well, you're up there telling your truth. Now you've left and you've practiced something that helps you become a better comedian, even in a really horrible open mic.
Yeah, we had Rich go on a rant today. Remember Rich? And I was trying to talk to him into narrowing down to a premise, and I was just bugging the shit out of him. And he was like, "Yeah, ma'am. Okay, ma'am, I told you I didn't want to talk." We got a question from Nate. He says, I had a teacher in college say that comedy is about the body and tragedy is about the soul. So would you agree with that, Greg?
I don't even know what that means.
Nate,
Sorry, that's one of those things where somebody, I think, is trying to make themselves look intelligent. I don't know. Was this at a junior college?
It was at a Oregon State University, at the theater department.
I don't understand those. It's like the person had some message they were trying to say about it, and
they're probably talking about acting or something.
Yeah, it's sure.
So we got Franklin had a question. Franklin and Dreen, any advice for that one-liner comedian memorization technique? I mean, don't they have to be word for word? And why are we such a minority these days?
Well, first of all, if you want to be a one-liner comedian, be it. Be whatever kind of comedian you want to be, and don't listen to anybody else. Don't listen to teachers. Don't listen to other comedians. No. This is about you.
Yeah.
My student Anthony Jeselnik, people kept saying, "Oh, your stuff is too dark." Yeah. Well, now look, okay. When he worked with me, he said, "I work kind of, you like the end." I went, "Sure, that's what you want to do." So you want to be a one-liner. I would also go back to the rehearsal process, that if you're memorizing the words, I can't go into all the things that it does, but if you're memorizing the words only, that's all that you care about are the words, you're memorizing symbols. Words are symbols. Right. They do not activate human behaviors. Pictures activate human behaviors. You'll behave just by remembering the scene of what you're talking about. You'll point at it. You autonomic things like heart rate and blood pressure and skin tone, eye dilation, all these little things that you're not necessarily consciously in charge of, will be activated by pictures. So turn your one-liners into scenes, act them out so you can see them like they're real events. And you'll have a more robust performance, and you'll feel like you're being yourself, not just a comic saying a series of jokes to an audience, because then it can seem like, that you're talking to the audience about your thoughts. And that's for a lot more, the audience seems to enjoy that more. Now, again, don't listen to anybody, because one-liners work better on television than stories. Few comedians can make stories. You watch the late night shows, that's why Rodney Dangerfield was killer on those shows, and so Stephen Wright, and so on and so. Your Robin Williams, they had a harder time with him because he does all this crazy stuff. Okay. One-liners work on television really, really well. I work with a lot of people who are storytellers to go, oh, you're going to go do some particular show. Yeah, you do that story, but make sure that it's good, clear jokes along the way. So again, you become the kind of comedian you want to become. Don't listen to anybody else, especially comedy teachers, because most comedy teachers are teaching their opinion of what they think is funny and what they like. And then now you're doing the teacher's sense of humor, and even worse is what the teachers are usually do when they teach their opinion. They're not just passing on their own sense of humor; they're passing on their own limitations. In
Yes,
other
yes.
words, you have to do what I do because that's all I know.
Oh man, I have a question for you, and I've run into this before as a teacher of your technique. Is every people that come in and want to talk about everything at once, in terms of their comedy routine. How do you get started? How do you narrow down your negative ideas and your thoughts and your rants and your what's pissing you off and narrow down to a one routine? How do you find that premise that will tell it all?
Well, first of all, a premise. So you have to understand the definition of a premise. When I got into comedy, they still don't necessarily have definitions. That's why I've created my glossary on my website. Premise. Here's my definition of a premise, and I got this from watching thousands of comedians and kind of figuring it out. Here's the definition. It's a negative opinion about a subject.
Yep.
That's all that it is. Okay. Now, what it does is it forces you to figure out, one, exactly am I talking about? Being specific. What am I talking about? Two is, what position am I taking? Okay. Let's see. Louis C.K. does this routine about my 4-year-old daughter's an asshole. He starts the routine by saying that. So the routine, a lot of modern day routines start with the comedian. You watch a comedian, they'll come out and they'll say the premise. If you really listen to it, because it can be disguised with a lot of stuff, okay, and inside of a story even, he says that. Now, then the jokes are examples of that premise. So that's what I'm going to tell you how to shake it out, is be clear about your premise and then find examples, funny examples of that premise. Those are the jokes. So then for the next 5 minutes or whatever, he then does all these jokes about his daughter being an asshole. Okay. Chris Rock comes out and says, women won't take a step backward in lifestyle. Okay. Women won't take a step back in lifestyle. Right. And then he follows it with a joke, which is an example. Here's the joke. Guys, if you run into trouble, and you lose your job, and your woman comes to you and says, "Hey, honey, it's okay. There's some things we can do without." She's talking about you. Okay, so boom, right? Premise followed by a joke, and then he followed it by another joke, and then and they were all about that same premise until he changed premises. Now, I can go through the history of comedians and show you one after another. We were watching a Kevin Hart clip the other day. He said, this woman saw me, she lost her mind. And, and then he acts her out, oh, Kevin, oh, I thought I was going to see you now. I see you now. You're standing right there. I'm just, So for the next couple of minutes, he acts out her losing her mind. Right. People are, it's the same thing. You just got to be able to see that starts with the premise. Then the jokes are examples of that premise. So I find that is the best way to get an idea so it becomes in a form that you can flesh it out and find the jokes. Premise, and then like Chris Rock says, then I get at least 3 ideas that I like, 3 ideas that I want to turn into jokes based on that premise. That's his formula.
I think a lot of people here have studied other places in stand up. Yeah, you guys have taken other classes or have other coaches and people like not at all, Andres. Okay, because we loved it. Oh, Carlos, you have? Yeah, Carlos.
I think Mike did too. Mike, what was your experience?
Yeah, no, I've taken a couple classes. I actually took out one of your on-demand courses, and
Which one?
I have to look at it. It's one of the beginner ones.
It was one of the memorable ones.
I no, I just it was one of the things that was just I just remember that the title was something to the effect of creating material. It's a problem that I have. I can kind of think of material just sort of extemporaneously, but if I try to sit down with a pen and paper and just write something, nothing comes.
So
I
don't.
actually.
So
Mhm,
let me answer that about that. There's two issues here. One is it's okay to come up with material without sitting down and doing a writing process. There's a lot of comedians who work out their material on stage. They come in with ideas. You see them all the time now with phones and stuff. We used to have napkins and stuff when my years, we look at.
mhm,
So it's okay to work those things out. Now there are processes that will help you do that. One is understanding the 3 points of view, narrator, self, and character, so you can bounce around inside the environment or the realm of a particular idea for a joke. So you get multiple points of view that can help
mhm,
you find the jokes. Uh, that's one thing. So what that's a legitimate way of doing is sitting down with pen and paper. Now, the other thing with pen and paper is
mhm,
there's some issues that I find that come up, and I deal with this all the time, was when you sit down with pen and paper, what people do is they have a tendency then to internal self-talk loop.
mhm,
Okay, oh, I'm gonna write about computers. Okay, then what they do is go, what's funny, what's funny, what's funny, what's funny, what's funny, where's the joke, where's the joke, where's the joke, where's the joke, what's funny, and your brain is
mhm,
going nowhere. It's going in a circle with the same question. So part of that processes, and that's part of the joke prospector writing system. Every step has a question. At least
mhm,
ask questions. I got this from Woody Allen. Woody Allen says
mhm,
I come up with a dichotomy of something. Then I ask thousands of questions. Ask a lot of different questions. And because jokes,
mhm,
first of all, jokes are in the details. They're not in broad generality. So all the little things about computers, you're
mhm,
going, a floppy drive of this, of that, or what's a RAM, what's REM, what does it mean? What does it stand for? What is it, an AI agent, what does AI stand for? uh, you know, AI,
mhm.
always Indian. So
Yeah,
you follow?
yeah,
So
yeah.
Gotham's over there going, oh shit, man, this guy is.
Mhm,
So some just
mhm.
saying all those little details in there. If you ask a lot of questions
So,
instead of looping into one, at least your mind is going somewhere.
mhm.
If you ask
So,
a question that's pointed or about a
mhm,
detail, your mind has to go and answer it and then answer another, answer another, answer another, answer it. Now, at least more information's running through your mind so you can find what you think is the funny. There's also finding the funny, as far as I'm concerned, you guys, is if you don't know my joke structure, my 5 mechanisms of joke structure. The connector is at the center. It's the one thing with 2 interpretations, and that is
mhm,
in every joke always on the planet.
Awesome.
Uh, and so it's part of it is the training with my students is to sit
mhm,
around and go, okay, you're thinking of a funny idea. What's your connector? What's that ambiguity that gives you the idea for a setup to misdirect an unexpected interpretation for the punch?
mhm,
Jokes, that's what jokes are. Jokes are 2 different ideas that connect. That connection, that connector, that
mhm,
ambiguity, that thing that has one thing with 2 interpretations is what you're going to be looking for. This will help you come up with an
mhm,
idea that is an actual joke. Okay. In my
mhm,
world, jokes have a very specific definition and structure. And when I teach it to people, they have a tendency to write more jokes rather than just kind of humorous thoughts. You've got to take that humorous thought
mhm,
and get it into joke structure,
There you go.
which I knew, which watching the open mic tonight, that individuals I would have counseled to, oh, you're so close. You've got this great idea and you haven't found your connector yet. So it's not a joke. A joke has to have one thing with 2 interpretations. One's expected, one's unexpected. If you don't have that, you're not going to have a joke.
I love what a lot of you guys did some great things tonight. David's got a lot of joke. I was laughing at David's
I agree.
Wendy's employee of the month and all that stuff. David, accountant. Accountant.
Right.
All right.
And David, my feedback for you was figure out where that punchline is and train yourself to stop talking.
Oh, I know. He wouldn't let me laugh. David, he kept going. He goes, I don't care.
I
about
mean,
you
you're
laughing."
working so hard to get it. It's weird to me. People work so hard and go through all the psychological angst and go through all this stuff to be funny. They get up in front of people and they do this great joke and they get this big, huge laugh and then they ignore it.
Here, women.
You know, that's what I was saying earlier. It's about the pause. It's not about how fast you talk.
Okay, here's David's question. Any suggestion on how to create a compelling character?
Whoa, man. Again, you asking a question with much depth to it.
Yes.
The best thing I can say is it's what I used to call highest value paradox. Have you made a list of your values? That would be everybody here. I would suggest you all to make a list of your values, what you value the most. What are the things you value? Yeah, do you value honesty? Do you value religion? Do you value money? Do you value friendship? Do you value love? What do you know? And there's more than one. And then your beliefs. What are your beliefs? Okay. And the last one is identity. Identity is anytime you're saying I am. I go, I am a comedian. I am a teacher. It's an identity. Okay. So to this paradox is a good comedy character is full of flaws. That's a good comedy. But Jack Benny had more flaws than any other character I ever saw. He was vain. He was mean. He was cheap. He was, he was vengeful. He was spiteful. He was jealous. Those are all the things, okay? But then he tried to present himself. This is where the value is. Oh, but I'm a good person, right? I'm gonna step in and do this thing, and then not. A lot of the characters from Commedia dell'arte, I'm not going to go into what that is, but one of the best characters in Commedia dell'arte, the funny characters, was the bragging coward. Do you follow the paradox? You know, Woody Allen took that was his character for the first few movies that he did. He was, he'd brag about something, but he was really a coward. So that's the paradox. So with you, being a CPA, in this particular case, it would seem something like you would be this incredibly competent incompetent.
Yeah.
An articulate person who's trying to be very, very articulate at the same time being inarticulate, using words improperly while using too big of words, coming and one guy was trying to talk to one time, told me about a fast car and he was trying to impress me. And he said, yes, I was driving a Testostorosa. Exactly. And that's not just the joke is funny, but the character is funny because he was very confident looking at me like, that's right. I know what I'm talking about. And I didn't laugh in his face, but I walked away and I laughed really hard. So if you can find a contradiction in some place in your character or opposites that are at play, Charlie Chaplin was a gentleman tramp. Buster Keaton, his credo for his character was act fast, think slow. So you watch him and he'll do something really quick and then he'll find himself in the middle of just this chaos and he just blinks and looks around because it just takes him forever to comprehend the craziness that he's gotten himself into. That's what creates a comedy character, is some kind of a contradiction to your setup and your punch or whatever. And the character becomes part of the material itself after a while, because that's, Roseanne, Tim Allen came along with the character of It's Okay to Be a Guy Again, right? In the middle of the 80s women's movement and stuff was like, hey, I like tools and I like power tools. It was that character But then again, he was that. And then they put him on TV because he was like, I'm a man and I do these things. And then he would screw it up.
I want to give this last question to Greg. Does doing political comedy tend to kill the mood at a showcase comedy show? Since
No.
it can be full of negativity and have a polarizing nature. That's the A question. There's a B value. What's the first? You can answer the A and then we'll go to the B. Go ahead.
You know what? Political material it polarizes audiences and can. Okay, so you just have to accept that. I know some good friends of mine that don't do nothing but political material, and they stick with their guns. One's very liberal, and in Hollywood, that's great. He goes outside of Hollywood. He wants to do the Midwest. He's in trouble. Okay,
Yeah.
I got another one of my students who's on. He's very funny, named Kurt Schlichter, who writes comedy for Town Hall, and he's on Fox News from time to time, and he's very funny and he's very right wing, and him and I are still friends.
Is
Okay,
there much value in doing it as a beginning comedian, or is political comedy an overdone, crowded field that's best left to the late night host and popular political comedians on YouTube?
so there are plenty. Late night needs to have a series of new jokes every night. Okay, for a monologue. So where else can they go but to the news? Okay, so you're right, and they've got huge staff of writers behind that. You think they probably have 15 or 20 writers pitching jokes into the system every day, email every morning. So that's one thing. The other thing, as a beginner, also there's just a lot of trouble that comes from polarizing audiences and upsetting audience, especially today when people are really polarized. The other thing that's tough about a joke in the news at best will last 2 weeks. Which means you constantly have to, the comedian, people I know that are political comedians, they get up every morning and they write a whole bunch of jokes, and then they go to the club and then try them out, and they're good for 2 or 3 days. So as a beginner, that's a tough road to hoe. That's a hard grind. I personally say, Bill Hicks once said, learn how to crush first, learn how to kill, get to know your craft, learn how to craft jokes, learn how to tell the stories that's got a lot of jokes, to know what a joke is. That's part of what, my training is that there's a definition to a joke, and then you can look at it and tell, oh, is this a joke or it's not a joke? That's very important. And that, because I tell my students, well, I can't guarantee the audience will laugh at your joke. What I can guarantee is everything that you're taking on stage are jokes. All of them are jokes. Okay. And that's a huge step in the right direction. So I say, put together material, go to the open mic, start getting shows, get 15, 20, 30 minutes worth of material where you can kill. And then you'll start to go, okay, now who do I want to be on stage? Let me look for my voice. How do I want to be more authentic and stuff? At first, just learn the craft of how to get a bunch of strangers to laugh at you. It's easy to get your group of friends and people at work and stuff to laugh at you because there's a lot of Pavlovian laughs. They've laughed so many times that, but to get strangers to laugh at you, you got to have jokes.
Does anybody have a manager? You guys are got managers working with agents?
Well, let me answer that real quick.
Okay.
Okay, so like it's a question. It's yes, managers, agents, people like that. You'll get a manager and an agent when you don't need one. When
Yeah.
you're making enough money that somebody can come along and go, I can take 10 to 25% of that money and make a lot of money and pay for my office and pay for a staff and get a cluster of people who will all pay me that amount of money, etc. No one's going to be making a living off that $20 that you made that's paying for gas. Okay, so unless you get lucky and you have a character or you're so funny that somebody then approaches you who wants to represent you, it's more often that. And then we come back to that question earlier about being in Mecca. you're not going to get a manager and an agent unless you're in New York, Chicago, Miami, LA, major cities, or at least semi-major cities. Okay. So that's where the show business people are, and those managers are there. So at first, it's like, it's not a deal. It's not, first put together your 30 minutes worth of the material. And I also have an online course called 10 Steps to Getting Work,
Yeah.
which is, really, that really shows you the path that you really need to take in order to get yourself ready. And there's a bunch of things you need to be doing now. A lot of social, because this club owners won't hire you now unless you have a really, really good internet presence and social following. They want to know that you're going to bring people with your social networking to a club as well. You're going to help them promote it. And if you've got that going,
Yeah.
then they're much more likely to hire you.
Hey, two things about that when it comes to that. I have two things to say about that. I read a story somewhere that, your social networking and your following is really, really something that's always going to be the Achilles heel in your career. I saw a message where they were trying, it was at the Hollywood Bowl, and they needed a headliner comedian. They said, should we book Chris Rock or Chris Tucker? Chris Rock or Chris Tucker? And it was actually in the write-up that they said, well, Chris Tucker is not really doing anything. So I don't know if people are going to come, but let's book Chris Rock because he's doing something, so people will come. Even when you're at your A-list level, people will make decisions on if you get the gig or not based on how popular you are. And you won't even know about it, but it's based on how you market yourself and how you put yourself out there. So write a book now, today, write a book.
Well, remember, every show is a bringer show.
Every show.
Chris Rock, if he's not filling up those arenas that he's playing, they wouldn't be hiring him if he's not bringing all those people.
I want to emphasize that and I don't know if you guys have thought about this or if you downplay this or whatever, please look at the other venue that you could be in to gain popularity, gain followers, and gain connections. And that would be the comedy festival venue. So in your neighborhood, go online and look up comedy festivals. If you feel like you've got a 10-minute set and you're ready, or if you, maybe they don't require that. Maybe you just submit 3 minutes and you get into the festival. Festivals is a great way to meet other comedians, perform a lot, and also force yourself to step up in the game to get ready to perform professionally. Because open mics are good for a period of time. But if you got a set and you're ready to break out and get into the business and the clubs won't let you in because there's a long line, then go toward the festival circuit. There's a lot of smaller festivals that you won't get really seen by big names, but you can start being taken seriously as a comedian because the people that run the festival will see you. Now that they make money off of you, by the way, everybody that applies for it, yeah, they make the money, but still you get a spot on a stage in front of a lot of people. So the festival circus is also a good way to go. Mike Cohen, what do you want? What do you got?
Just to follow up on that, how do I find out about festivals? Like, is there a website?
Well, you don't have a job yet, Mike. So the thing about you is
they
that
they hide information like this on this thing called the internet.
Yeah, go to Google and you can on Google put in comedy clubs or open mics near me. You can also put in comedy.
Oh no, yeah. No, but specifically festivals. Is there a website that
monitors? What
like,
you do, you type in festivals and then look through them. That's what I did recently.
There's so many that there isn't one. Now, back in the day, there was of course the Orlando Festival, and this was all in Montreal Festival, and there was Aspen Comedy Festival. Those are the big ones that used to make or break a comedian's career, but now it's more. There's more now. So
and there's smaller ones, that you want to,
I say find the smallest ones where you can kind of get your feet wet, and don't try to go big until you have a really good set that you know backward and forward, and you could do it in your sleep, and
do comedy contests.
Comedy contests.
Comedy contests too, because that's what, Yeah, they're kind of crappy and they're not fair and all that kind of, but if you have to get up and perform night after night after night, or whenever yeah, you just have to perform. There is no substitution for just enormous amounts of stage time. I mean, I tell people, look, you're going to have to put in the same amount of stage. You're going to put in stage time. You'll just be practicing good technique instead of practicing bad technique. That's the difference is you'll get there quicker if you're practicing good technique every time you're getting on stage instead of trying to figure out what good technique is. So that's the advantage of the things that we teach because we teach techniques and skills. That's all that we teach. It's not our opinion of what's funny. Trying to help you articulate your sense of humor with these techniques, which ones are right for you. Not all of them are right for everybody.
But I love that advice, Greg, about the circuits for the festivals, because that's another circuit people ignore until they've been doing it a while. Then you're ready to do something. That's also stages. It is. It's not necessarily career breaking stages all the time, but it's stages, and it's a little bit more class than an open mic all the time. And all you do is you pay your entry fee, and then there's contests that go on, and you meet other people, and other people are doing other things, and these other things can give you more exposure. There's another really good tip Greg will give, and it's 7:04. We got to go, but Greg, you always say, learn how to be a good MC if you want stage time too. Because there's a lot of shows that don't have good MCs, and if you learn how to be a good MC, you can be there all the time, performing between the comics and get a lot.
And once again, we also have an online on-demand course of that too. It's a recording of me teaching how to be an MC. Again, all these things have so many techniques and principles and things behind that you really need to know. And once you're a good MC, everybody's going to want. Gayla actually got so good at being an MC that's, she got really, really good. She did MC for like 5 years, and then she had to go to everybody, and I'm no longer an MC. And her gigs dropped off for like 6 months, and then they all came back even more because all these people wanted her to now be the headliner of their show.
That happened at the improv a long time ago. There was a guy really, really funny, just so funny. And I went to him, I go, how come I never see you headline? How come I never see you feature? He goes, yeah, because all they want me to do is MC, because I do MC. So the people get stuck in the mind of what you do best, and they don't know you the other way. So
yet at the same time, as a beginner, you want to be an MC because you get a lot of stage time.
Yeah.
And there's some other tricks and things like that about how to trade it out for stage time, et cetera, in that class.
We're going to close out. We really, really, really appreciate you being here and sticking around and asking questions and learning and whatnot. Gosh, we're going to be doing this again. Thank you very much, Greg. Give Greg a round of applause.
Thank you.
A round of applause. This has been fascinating, fun, and very enriching and inspiring. We'll see you guys next time. All right?
Thank you so much.
All right.